Happy noontime Monday. How are y'all doing today? I hope your weekend was great. Mine was filled with lots of wind. Had a great time at the Animal Welfare Rescue fundraiser for Bro and Tracy. But it was a bit of a challenge. I didn't dare lay down any cards, so I did direct readings. The wind was so intense. I think they were telling me got up to 45-mile-an-hour gusts, but it was a steady 30 to 40-mile-an-hour winds. So there you go. If you like our content here at Resonant Essentials, please hit the subscribe button and like and share. If you want to be notified, ring the bell for when we go live. Today, we are going to, again, I'm advocating these oracle cards that Rosie created with Carol Fracas because they did such a great job, and it's a really unique deck. So I really would like to see you guys enjoy these cards. And ironically, every time that I work with the cards, there's a whole twist of things. It seems they just follow suit with what we're talking about. And I don't pull it out from wherever. It just tends to fall out. Here's the card we're going to use today. Oh, it's so pretty. See the back of it? Well, get you out of the glare. And it is I Am Garnet. Voicing a message of be where you are when you are there. Gee, that sounds interesting. Look not to the past for what was, as the past is immutable. It wanes and is gone, disappearing, becoming a memory, real or imagined. Look not to the future for what will be. The future is unknowable, untouchable, impossible to reach, always at arm's length, holding hopes of what might be. Be in the now, the truest place of passion, strength, and balance, the place of vitality, creativity, manifestation, transformation, expansion, and growth. Breathe in its essence to practice the Zen of now. Well, I can't agree with that more because, our talk today is on the law of cause and effect. It basically means what you jump in and do is going to have an immediate reaction. Before we get started today, I want to mention that Johanna has a fantastic astrology forecast every Sunday right around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Brother Francis's talk here on the Resonant Essentials channel is on Thursdays. He's quite fun and funny and a good speaker. We have Donna, who goes in our group Facebook Live and does tarot readings. And of course, I'm here on Mondays. And I have to apologize. I wasn't here last week. I kind of hit the wall with more things to do than not. I'm right at the tail end of the editing for my book, Mastering Metaphysics, Foundations and Principles. And I'm about halfway through the memoir that I'm writing on my son and what happened to me through spiritual growth, called The Death Walk of the Metaphysician. I want to say, if you want the opportunity to work with Resonant Essentials, we are looking for practitioners here locally. So if you want to come in and talk to me, if you want to become one of our business members, we would love talking with you. Classes that are coming up, we have a great one with Susan Zumo, soul patterning harmonics. And that is an absolute fantastic class, especially if you want to grow spiritually or increase your galactic connection. Susan is an amazing and gifted teacher. We don't know how much longer she's going to be here in New Mexico. So this is one of the few. She thought she was going to be gone in May. Surprise, surprise, we get to keep her for a little longer. So, think about joining her class on June 19th. And of course, to kick off in June, I'm going to be holding a beta course on psychic development called Intuitive Explosion. And I hope that you, if you're interested, you'll reach out and contact me. So, universal law, cause and effects. How do you embrace life's twists and turns? And why am I talking about all the universal laws? Because, you know, a lot of them sound very similar. Cause and effect. Reap what you sow out of karmic law. They're not exactly alike, but it's the way you apply them that changes everything. So when we're talking about the law of vibration, it's how you yourself are vibrating. If you're vibrating low, you're going to create something from a aspect of lower emotions. If you're vibrating high, of course, you're going to manifest from the higher emotions. So the law of cause and effect basically says that, honestly, every single action, everything produces a reaction. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what you do to stop it. It's going to have a reaction. And sometimes we need to look at the spiritual aspects of these laws, and sometimes we need to think about how we're relating to them on an emotional or a physical aspect. It's like hitting a baseball. If you get a good swing in and you hit it just right, it's a home run. If you bunt, you can still bring somebody in off of third because that pitcher has to run to get it. And especially if you bunt it not toward the home run guy and kind of toward where you're running, you can run faster than hopefully what you bunted it. But the point is that it's an immediate reaction. When we're creating, sometimes that takes a little time. But depending on where we're at with cause and effect, we can have that come at us so many different ways. It can have an immediate reaction and then a long-term reaction. It can build into something more enjoyable or more formidable. But you'll get a reaction. It's just the way it is. And we know that emotions stem from our hormones. So while we're doing this, when we send out something from an emotion based, so if you're coming at something, let's say you had a really bad day at work, you walk in the door, the kids are all, hey, you're home, you're home, you're home. I'm hungry. I got to show you my report card, blah, blah, blah. And your immediate reaction is stop. Well, the long term of what you may have created can be the kids going, wow, they're a little stressed. I'm going to go hide over here. And if you do this enough, that vibration, that inspired action, that law of attraction, you're going to attract that as well, that rejection. So law of cause and effect is that bang. It gets things kind of moving. And we know that our hormones, while if we're in a good physical place, if we're feeling good, we don't have any illnesses, our blood work is no diabetes, no thyroid, no nothing on those levels, it's a good thing for our hormones, and it's a good thing for our reactions because our reactions can be much more stable, not as traumatic. Our hormones are also triggered by memories, okay, because it's emotion based. So if we look at new love, oh, we get that stomach flip flop. You know, do you ever remember thinking of, oh, I wish they'd call, and your stomach do the flip flop? And you might be together for 50 years, and that still might be your reaction. Oh, they're calling, flip flop. Or it could be, oh, they're calling. Oh my gosh, what's wrong? Flip flop. They quit calling me years ago. Flip flop. Is there a problem? Flip flop. I mean, it can get really still that stomach flip flop, but it's how the emotions that you're putting behind it. A new boss for you might mean tension because you don't know how they're going to behave or want their expectations. You don't know if they're coming in with the intention of cleaning house and getting all new people under them, their people that they prefer to work with other than you, to bring their team in. There's a lot of stuff that happens around cause and effect. Socialization is another one. When we're socialized, it can be a trauma trigger. You better not say a word at the dinner table. Children must be seen and not heard. You better shut up. Don't you dare, or you will be spanked. I mean, that's where a lot of people come from those teachings of you better not embarrass me. I will spank you. Cause and effect. You misbehave. Boom, I'm going to smack you. I have an issue with the whole Bible thing of spare the rod, spoil the child. I don't know if that's a Bible thing or not. Really, I heard it applied by many religious people, but I don't know if it's actually in the Bible. However, I kind of always believed in spare the accountability and everybody will rot. So spare the accountability in the world, everybody rots. So we have to look at the cause of what's happening in our world. So religion can be very peaceful to us, or it can be very traumatic. Right now, we're fighting religious wars, and maybe it's time that we quit listening to the dogmatic approaches to those traumas, to those religions, and give over to free will and understand that these are things that everybody must decide for themselves. Um, a relative asked me when they found out that I believed in free will, ergo I believed in pro-choice, um, how I could cry for my son who had passed away and let all those little innocent babies die. And I think people don't understand that spirit looks at things in a world of difference. And so it's really imperative that we start raising our levels of consciousness and helping people move through these earth-bound antique thinking of control and fear based. Because, the reaction that I gave her immediately was, you're blocked. You don't get to contact me. We're done. And this was his aunt from on his dad's side of the family, or she used to be. His uncle divorced, and she moved on. But I think she was bitter and angry because she wasn't able to have kids, which is why she left being a nun. Okay, she quit being a nun so that she could have children, and then didn't have children. So I think that was her situation, and her cause was to strike out at me, and my effect was to make sure that doesn't ever happen again. The people in our lives get to choose how to act or react, which determines their staying in our lives. And I'm giving people this power. I'm saying to you right now, you don't have to tolerate people who are not in line with you, metaphysically speaking. You just don't. And the reason I say that is because you take off this spiritual body, you're no longer, or this physical body, sorry, you're no longer their child, their cousin, their aunt, their niece, their uncle, you're not anything. You're just another spiritual being. So your main concern should not be what I do today and how that's going to bring in the effect of for family get-togethers in the fall. It should be more along the lines of what I do today has a long-term effect on how my spirit progresses. And that's what we need to be more concerned about. We don't get to have you can't have a lot of long-term effects. I mean, you have to have that. This is what's right for my spiritual growth. Now, we do have it as parents, the obligation to teach our children how to not be so obnoxious that we don't want to have them in our house. I mean, I had to have my son on the leash because he was obnoxious at the stores. I mean, years ago, before it was okay to have, because he was zipping and I could not for the life of me keep track of him. And I would think he was sitting in the stroller because I took him in the stroller thinking I've got him. He's going to sit in that stroller. And my back would be right here looking at the rack of what I needed to get. And he'd be off down the way running. He just that quick out. So we have to learn to socialize, and we have to learn the rules that make it easier for us to all cohabitate on the earth. Like, don't go out and kill people. That's just not nice. Don't go out and steal from people. Again, not nice. And don't go out and talk about people. Again, not nice. And these are just some of these things that we do. And we come from it from an area of guilt, usually, because that's our justification for doing what we do. Guilt, this emotion we call guilt, causes us to tolerate things that we wouldn't normally tolerate. It causes us to react negatively toward people when they ask us a question. It's the guiding light is our guilty conscience to keep us in check. If used correctly, we ask before we create or before we do the deed or before the cause. So the effect is not what would be immediately negative. I mean, it's a smarter way to live life. We just don't think about it. I've got a long history of being a redhead, and that temper of mine would just come right out, and yeah, I did things knee-jerk reaction. And so my cause and effect was often unpleasant for people to be around. I'll put it that way, which is fine. So, understanding that justification excuses our accountability, we need to understand that the feelings of guilt create the reaction and justification. It kind of all works together. We have to own up. We have to be accountable. We have to say, this is what we do, and how we show up in the world creates that reaction. Justification, like I said, just excuses accountability. The minute somebody justifies, I'm really sorry, but, or, I wished I had, but, and I did it earlier. I said, I'm really sorry for not being here last week. I just couldn't get on. I was trying to finish some other work, and it just was so overwhelming. I don't excuse myself. And I'm not even justifying it. I'm just saying that's the way it was. How we feel is really how that creativity, that reaction we should have, or we do have, works. And if we hold unconditional love in our heart, if we love people and we have that place of non-judgment, we have that place of peace and contentment, then that's the reaction. The reaction is immediately felt, because you get back what you send out. It's the vibration you're coming from. So the reaction people are going to give you is going to be love back. They're going to really appreciate the fact that you're standing there not saying mean, horrible things and cruel things to them because you feel guilty or because you can't do what you need to do. I mean, there's a moment in time where we all have our limitations, and we have to understand that these are the things that we go through, that we have to try to get through our day with. And if we hold that love in our heart and we say, wow, this person must have done that. Wonder what was going on in their head. Poor things. Empathy is great. Compassion is best. Sympathy is found between syphilis in the dictionary. Not a good thing to give people, because that sympathy allows you to be codependent, and that codependence gives you those knee-jerk reactions. I went through a whole week of I'm trying, and Mercury was not necessarily cruel to me, but it made me really solidify in my mind, which is a good thing, what I want and how I want it to show up, and the different things on that level. So if I do it with unconditional love, if I come from that approach, then it can only be received with unconditional love. If I go through it with guns blazing and justification screaming out of my mouth, guess what? The reaction from the universe is not going to be kind or gentle to me. It's hard when we have to be working from these levels, and it's hard to come into that. So, it's another thing. It's like when we pray, that is a cause. Okay. So when you pray, I've talked about this before. It's, we should be praying for ourselves, but unfortunately we don't. We pray around ourselves. We pray for our child who's in duress so that we don't suffer along with them. It's not that I'm saying that enters into the conversation in our prayer, because we have a compassion for our child who may be going through some things that we don't want them to go through. But that prayer that we give for that child is often more heartfelt and more centered in love than the prayer we do for ourselves, because honestly, I don't know too many people who truly love themselves. They may laugh a lot. They may present really well with stuff. But yeah, they're not exactly loving themselves. I see a lot of people that would like to, but they haven't given themselves a reason to, which is that cause factor. We should love ourselves unconditionally because we can. That's the reason. Because we can. Because it will make us closer to truth, and it will bring us more enlightenment. And if you truly love your fellow human being, loving yourself unconditionally is that first step in sharing that love outward, which when they get love bombed by you with pure divine love, then that their life is going to be automatically improved. Now, when we meditate, it's the same thing. We send up a smoke signal. Hey, we're in meditation. I'm ready to hear the answers to my questions. And we stop and we empty our mind. And when we empty our mind, we hear the answers. Now, I know there's a lot of people who are proponents of listening to music to keep your mortal mind busy, but that's not true meditation. That's not deep listening meditation. That's giving your mind something else to do. So hopefully you'll hear it, something else. We can't really develop our gifts if we don't apply ourselves, bring a cause to the fight. We want to develop our gifts because we can help so many people with our gifts of spirit. If you could bilocate, you could be, if you're a speaker of profound information, and you can reach more people. I mean, there's masters in the Middle East do this all the time. So did Jesus. He mastered bilocation. That's just one of the high gifts of spirit. When we develop our philosophy, we develop the opportunity, if we put forth the effort by reading and then developing our philosophy, that helps us grow spiritually. That's the cause and effect of reading metaphysics or reading philosophy. or reading a history book, a true history book, not what they put in schools. But understanding that we have that ability to create a true effect. And this law is so important right now, in case you're wondering, because we're a world divided. We are so divided by what we have going on out there that we don't even pay attention. We don't recognize by what's happening. There's so many deflections found in the media right now. We don't recognize the horrific conditions of people and cultures and lifestyles and choices. I mean, people really go through and they're trying so hard to have their voice heard. When we don't listen, when we don't hear them, the universe reaction is to show us more of it. Okay, so, we need to listen to each other. I'm going to say something that's probably not real popular with today's thinking, but it's a metaphysical teaching, is that some people will never understand or be appeased until they realize that in a past life, they probably helped to create the very thing they are against now. Cause and effect. We have to experience that which we created. And sometimes it takes a lifetime or two to catch up to us, which is really hard. The more injustices that are shown to us, the more hate and justification you'll see. I don't understand it. It makes me want to cry. But what we as spiritual beings need to do, we need to acknowledge that it's out there. We need to apologize for it and do what we can to be the change we want to see in the world, and then let it go. We cannot keep fighting these battles over and over again. We have to go in and make a commitment to understanding that we can only do our part, okay? And that those people who are out there screaming, this person, that person, have to be doing this and that because this is my belief and this is my truth. We kind of don't, because we were the ones that helped create that. We're the ones that are paying the consequences now. We've been everything and more than once. If you figure you have had 100,000 lives, let's just throw out an even number for me to work with, my little tired brain. You have to figure you have covered every possible scenario that there is. And now you're back doing it again. Why? Because we're trying to grow spiritually. So that cause and effect is really important for us to really nail down. We have to find ways to grow past what we're seeing and experiencing, and then we'll find peace. Okay? We don't need to feel guilty for what we created to learn from. I felt really guilty for a lot of things in my life, but never so much as not being able to keep my son alive. For some reason, I thought that was my responsibility, and I was a horrible mom. It took me a long time to figure out I wasn't a horrible mom. I did what I needed to do, and so did he, and it created his path. But I know that he's immortal. He's eternal, and he loves to pester me to this day. And he comes in when I absolutely need him, and he has time for, because, they do stuff over there too. And if he doesn't get back to me right away, it's kind of like, leave a message, get your voicemail on. It's the universal law of cause and effect. We create it, which is the cause. We learn from it. That's the effect. Yay, us. The buck has to stop with us, and we have to do what's in front of us to do, step by step, one breath at a time. And that's how we get through this. We need to leave others to do the same. Okay. Unfortunately, okay, we're in a world where people are so in their pot. with each other. Okay? That they're creating things that go against other people's free will, free choice. They're creating things to control. You know what that reminds me of? All those negative actions, their fear is showing. And their fear is of losing control. And do you know why that fear is showing and they're losing control? Because the cause is we've grown past that. The effect is we will live a more peaceful life. I don't know what they're going to live. It's not for me to judge. I'm not. But I do tell you that you need to stand up and say, no, this is my belief, but we don't have to do it at the cost of others. It's not somebody else's choice to micromanage our neighbor. I would no more go into my neighbor's yard and tell him what to plant in his yard, or go to my other neighbors and say, hey, you need to clean up your kids' toys, even though I think she should, because those toys blow into my yard and the kids lose their toys, and then they're out there crying, where's my toy? And it's like, well, come look under the bushes. I don't want to. Where's my toy? And of course, that's the cause and effect, right? But we need to leave others to deal with what they need to deal with. And we need to understand that these things we have already created, we have already lived through. We need to get off this cycle of reincarnation, incarnation, reincarnation, discarnate, reincarnate. We need to get off this wheel of third dimensional thinking. We need to stop having all these different rules for everybody, and that says you have to live by my rules only. And we need to start changing that. How do we do it? You use your cause. Your cause is your heart. Your cause is inner peace. Your cause is unconditional love. A lot of people are going to poo-poo that because they're very angry right now, and that's okay. I don't think everybody is going to be ready and able to do this. But if I move up in higher consciousness, if my vibration is raising, it makes it harder for their vibration to stay down. Cause and effect. Raise your consciousness, raise your vibration. It's harder for them to stay down there in the scum-sucking bottom feeders. My heart to all of yours. I know I'm a little testy today because you know what? I want to get this show on the road, and I want us all to grow into peace, light, love, harmony, and prosperity. So from my heart to yours, have a great week. Bye.